Sure. I'm Ryan Slattery. I made Betrayed Alliance and a handful of other games before it that are not playable, so don't even look. Oh, sure. So Betrayed Alliance is mainly about, just like every other video game in the world, it's like a princess gets stolen and the hero has to go get her. So I kept it really traditional and classic with that. Yeah, so Betrayed Alliance is probably closest to something like Quest for Glory, although there isn't that much role-playing game elements in it. You can like level up a few stats, but not nearly as many as Quest for Glory. I think the puzzle structure is probably more like just the traditional Sierra games like King's Quest and Space Quest. I think Quest for Glory was my favorite game to play when I was little growing up. So when I discovered the software to make the games, that was the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh, I want to make a game like the one I really liked playing as a kid. I knew that I wanted people to be able to play the game and beat it without doing any combat whatsoever. So I made sure that, yes, while there is combat in the game, you can completely avoid it if you want to and just solve all the puzzles. So I think the puzzles are the premier gameplay element for sure. So originally when I made the game, there was just regular difficulty. It was the same for everybody. But I'm a teacher and I had a whole lot of 7th graders play my game over time. They get hung up a lot faster, like they don't read anything. So there'll be important information and they'll just like hitting the enter button, like I want to do stuff. And then they'll take the cursor, which is like shaped like a sword, and they'll be like, okay, I want to start killing stuff. I'm like, that it's just a pointer. And I realized after watching them play a game style that they've never seen before, 7th graders these days don't play Sierra games that much, that it would be nice if I had a difficulty setting that would allow more leniency with the parser commands. So instead of having to say, roll marble down a hill, you could just put use marble and it'll work. So depending on if you've played these types of games before and are comfortable with more complicated parser controls, the difficulty level will help a lot. There's additional hints on the novice setting too for more arcane puzzles. And one puzzle in particular I got a lot of feedback on was there's a slide block puzzle. And I just find that there's a lot of people that cannot stand those. So on the novice setting, there's a hidden button that will just allow you to skip it. That's right. I had big plans for these marbles because I thought of this cool idea of having a marble set where it was a solar system and all the marbles would go around the shooter. And then when I came time to make puzzles for it, I was like, well, what can I do? What can I do to make a puzzle with these marbles? And the only thing I could think of was, well, what if you dislodge a marble from a rock and then the rock comes tumbling down, allowing you to pass through? Yeah, so in Quest for Glory 1, you have this hermit that lives by himself, but like every time you go to him, he wants you to sit down and play games with him like constantly. So I decided to give him a bunch of friends in this game, and I figured the best friends that he could have would be all of the classic characters from the Sierra games. So you have from King's Quest 4, you have Rosella, and you have what's the guy's name from Space Quest? I have no background in programming, so that was the biggest hurdle for me to go over. When I first discovered like the studio that you could make these old Sierra games on, I tried to talk my younger brother into doing the programming because I didn't want to learn it. I was like, I'm the art guy, I'll do the animations and all that stuff. And he was on board for that for about a week. And then he was like, well, I found this thing called AGS Studio, and you can get more colors with that. So he moved over to the AGS, and I was like, no, I want it to be original. I want it to be like very, very like the old games, because this game runs on the exact same system as the old Sierra games. So I'm limited on space. So when I'm building the rooms with the code, I was running into errors where I was going over how much space I had to put in input. So some stuff had to get cut. In terms of a lot of stuff that was cut was maybe dialogue options, because you just run out of space. Luckily, there's a community of people who are working on this stuff. I think I'm like the dumbest person in that community, because it's the programming community and I don't know anything about programming. So I'm always like, hey guys, I don't understand this. And then they explain it to me. I would say that Most of the puzzles in the game are very linear, that there is only one way to solve them. That one is one of the few exceptions where I made it and I thought, well, this is kind of too hard because I can't even solve it and I know the answer. So it took me a while. So I added another couple ways. So if you talk to some of the characters, one of them knows about a secret passage and he'll give you some information to make it a lot easier. And then there's an item that you can use that, well, basically does it for you as long as you know to use the item. So. The way you get the most background on the story and the world is by talking to the characters in the game. This is one of the things I really enjoy about the parser games is you are in control and you're kind of like an inspector, you're like solving a little riddle or mystery because you have to know what to ask them about. So you talk to them, they'll drop a few keywords and you'll say, oh, okay, well, I'll ask them about those keywords. And that will give you a lot of hints for how to solve certain puzzles or find certain things. She's like an adventurer. She has a lot of wanderlust, but she's been stuck in the castle for 4 years, so she's kind of done. She fell in love with you for reasons that are not yet revealed, which will be more explored in book 2. But she asked you to run away with her. She's like, well, the princess is gone, and well, that's for the best. So let's go. Yeah, that's game over. If you if you go away with her and abandon your quest, well, there's no game left to play after that. So. I think one of my favorite things from the Space Quest series was dying, because they always had these funny animations and clever ways to die, like getting trapped in gelatin and this Terminator 2 looking Arnold Schwarzenegger guy killing you. So I wanted to make sure that there was plenty of deaths, because deaths are kind of fun in these games, although they are irritating. But you know, anybody who's played these games long enough knows, like, all right, I did one thing I need to save, right? I accomplished one small task, I should save it now. I went through and I made a whole bunch of new animations and death slides and bad death humor for a bunch of different ways to die. My daughter's in the room.
Is Mommy here?
Mommy went to work, sweetheart. It'll be lunchtime in about half an hour. Well, we'll go up and we'll get some lunch. Claire, can you leave the room and close the door? Sweetheart, I'm talking to somebody. All right, I'm ready for my Father of the Year award. There's like small homages here and there. Like you have the two fighting soldiers who are insulting each other with, you know, bad insults. That's not a Sierra thing. That's more of a Monkey Island thing. To my shame, I didn't put a moose head anywhere in the game. Sierra games had this running gag where they put a moose head in a room just somewhere in the game. So you play all the games, you can find it in Colonel's Bequest. You can find it in Quest for Glory. They're just there. Yep, the librarian is there as kind of a side quest kind of thing. He's got 5 missing books, and he gives you hints on where to find them. He tells you like the description of people he's seen them last with, so you can go and find those books and return them. In return for that, you will get a magnet which you can use to kind of cheat on the Sailboat Extreme. Yeah, somebody emailed me and they were like, I can't beat this sailboat game. You need to like have some way to beat it, or like some way to cheat on it. And I was like, that's a great idea. And they suggested the magnet. They're like, it's a Space Quest 1 thing. They used a magnet so you could gamble and win without working so hard. And I was like, that's a great idea. I think I'll add that. Because you had mentioned that you should get something from the librarian for returning the books. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know what that could be. So then I had these two suggestions. I just put them together. It's like demoralizing, because you'll start building it and you'll be like, you have these great ideas, and then you realize after like a year's time has gone by, and you're like, well, I have like 3 rooms that I can go in between and like half of a puzzle. And it's just like, oh, like this is a lot more work than I had ever thought. If you're going to do it all by yourself in terms of all of the artwork, all of the music, all the animations, all the programming, most people probably have like ambitions and goals. I just saw a program that would let me make something like the games I played when I was little, and I was like, that's really cool. I want to do that. I have the personality trait that is like, if I'm not working on something creative, I get creative depression. I feel awful. So like whether it's writing books or making music or whatever, like I need to be working on something as a project. Yeah, the first book I wrote was called The Stitcher, and this is kind of a dark fairy tale. I was writing fairy tales for my kids when they were little, and like the idea for this one is that there's this guy in the forest and he's chopping up animals and children, and he's stitching them back together to make these monsters that have all of the memories of the different body parts. So it's kind of like they share all the memories of all the things that they used to be. It's a strange book, and these kids get lost in the forest and they kind of have to find their way out and figure out what's going on. So because the first one was so like dark, my principal didn't want me like letting anybody know that I had written it. He didn't want the kids reading the book or finding out. So like, well, the next book I make needs to be like more kid friendly. So this one's Upheaval, and it's the idea that all of life in the world is the dream of this creature that's living in the earth. So it falls asleep and it kind of gives off this energy that creates the world. But when it wakes up, it causes these worldwide disasters that will destroy the world. And the people on the earth are finding all of these like relics from earlier ages. So that's kind of the idea there. Like everybody's trying to get their hands on these ancient technologies. Yeah, I had originally thought I would do book 2 and 3 together. But now that I've made about 40 or 45 screens for book 2, I realize I got to do them one at a time. It's just too much. So I'll be trying to get book 2 done by 2022. Yeah, I got on Twitter just to kind of get the game out there more, and I found like I keep finding all these people making things. I was like, wow, these people are making awesome stuff, and I feel like I was like looking at mine, I'm like, this is kind of dinky compared to all this cool stuff that people are making. But it's like everybody has their own kind of things that they like. I've been getting a lot of feedback recently from people who are just really enamored by it. So it's just everybody has their different tastes. So the programming community that was built around this system that I was using to make the game, it's a pretty small and tight-knit community. And one of the earlier people that I met there was a kid from Estonia named Egan Link, and he made Jummy Bummy 2 Space Adventure. Well, I would definitely Julia Minamata, because she's working in the same kind of atmosphere that I am. She's developing the Crimson Diamond, which is based on the Colonel's Bequest. I started seeing her stuff and I was like, wow, her artwork is amazing. And it kind of inspired me to work harder on my artwork and then to like work more on the game, because I was getting inspired by her. I think book 2 was I mainly started on that because I was like wowed by her presentation, and like people were paying attention to her. And I was like, well, that's great, because that means that there's actually people who want to play these type of games. I think this is about as far as we can. Can you say goodbye to everybody?
Bye-bye, school.